You don't have to confront people you dislike. Remember these 3 sentences, and you've already won. Have you ever met someone like this? The moment you see them, your heart feels like it's on fire. Annoyed, disgusted, even wanting to lose your temper right then and there. Have you tried enduring it, avoiding them, or even pretending to be magnanimous, only to find that the more you tolerate, the worse you feel? The more you avoid, the more frustrated you become. Don't worry, today I'm going to tell you a secret. Truly wise people, when facing someone they dislike, never lose their temper, nor do they compromise themselves. They rely on just 3 sentences to keep their inner peace, and even make that person they dislike voluntarily apologize to them. These 3 sentences come from ancient wisdom, 2,500 years old. They are so simple, even a 3-year-old can remember them, yet so powerful. They can change your life. Don't believe me? Then let me tell you a story. A long time ago, in an ancient temple, there was a young cultivator named Huiming. He woke up the earliest every day and went to bed the latest. He never slacked off in chanting or meditation, earning him great respect from the elders. But recently, he encountered a troubling issue. A new senior brother had arrived at the temple, named Zhiguang. This Zhiguang came from a prominent family. He was incredibly wealthy, and before becoming a monk, he was a renowned local scholar. However, he had a flaw. Wherever he went, he loved to show off his knowledge, and would often belittle others. What made Huiming even more upset was that Zhiguang saw him, young as he was, already gaining the elders' appreciation. Out of jealousy, he constantly opposed Huiming. Speaking ill of him behind his back was commonplace. Mocking him in front of everyone was also nothing new. The most outrageous incident was when Zhiguang, in front of all the senior and junior brothers, claimed Huiming was just putting on an act and didn't even understand the most basic precepts. Huiming was shaking with anger. He wanted to confront him several times, but then he remembered that a cultivator should be compassionate, and he forced himself to suppress his rage. But the more he suppressed it, the worse he felt. Every time he saw Zhiguang, he would get incredibly annoyed. He couldn't even meditate in peace, tossing and turning all night. He even argued with Zhiguang in his dreams. Waking up, he found his lips bitten. He couldn't take it anymore, so he went to consult the old master of the temple. After listening, the old master didn't rush to comfort him, but calmly asked, "Do you think what truly causes you pain is Zhiguang's words and actions, or your own ego attachment to him?" Huiming was stunned. "How is it my problem?" The old master smiled, pointing to an old tree in the courtyard. "Look at this tree. It has withstood wind and rain for centuries. Why is it still so vibrant? Because its roots are deep. No matter how strong the wind and rain, they are but fleeting clouds. Zhiguang's words and actions are like the wind and rain, and your heart is this tree. If your roots are not firm, you will naturally be swayed and toppled. But if your roots are solid, what he says or does, what does it have to do with you?" Just then, Zhiguang's voice came from afar. He was arguing with someone again. Some people always think they are advanced in cultivation, but they don't even understand worldly knowledge. Huiming's face instantly flushed red. His fists clenched involuntarily. The old master looked at him and said earnestly, "Look, just hearing his voice has already disturbed your peace. What does this tell you? It means you haven't yet found the true root of your troubles. Trouble isn't in external circumstances, but within your heart. Why is it that others can remain calm when hearing the same words, yet you become so agitated?" Huiming lowered his head. Because I have ego attachment." "Precisely," the old master nodded. "The reason you feel hurt is precisely because you are too attached to the concept of self. When he says you come from poverty, you feel your self-esteem is damaged. When he says your cultivation isn't diligent, you feel wronged. But these are all illusory distinctions." Huiming seemed to grasp it, but his brow remained furrowed. "I understand the principle, but when things happen, I just can't keep my mind as still as water. Every time he mocks me, that fire inside me just flares up instantly, and I can't control it." The old master looked at him, a mysterious glint in his eyes. "What if I told you there's a very simple method that can instantly bring you inner peace when facing anyone you dislike? Would you believe it?" Huiming's eyes lit up. "There's really such a method?" "Not only is there, but it only takes 3 sentences." The old master smiled faintly. "These 3 sentences don't require you to humble yourself or go against your true self. Yet, they can make the resentment in your heart melt away like ice and snow. Even more miraculously, they can generate an incredible power to influence the other person, making the one you dislike most apologize to you voluntarily, or even become your best friend." Huiming was filled with excitement. He couldn't wait to know what these 3 sentences were. But just then, the dinner bell rang. The old master got up and left, leaving only 1 sentence. "I will tell you in detail tomorrow, all afternoon." Huiming pondered this matter. Could 3 sentences really possess such magical power? It was simply unbelievable. What tormented him even more was that night, Zhiguang seemed to escalate. In the meditation hall, he deliberately sat next to Huiming and occasionally made strange noises to disturb his meditation. Huiming wanted to lash out several times, but remembering the old master's words, he could only hold it in. Yet the disgust in his heart grew wildly like weeds, almost consuming his reason. The next morning, Huiming waited early outside the old master's door. Just then, Zhiguang appeared again. He said sarcastically, "Some people always like to show off in front of elders, but are actually very impatient inside. Can't even wait one night." Huiming was furious, about to retort. The old master happened to walk out. He said nothing, but calmly walked to the old tree. The disciples naturally gathered around. The secret of the 3 sentences. The old master began. "Yesterday, Huiming asked me how to deal with annoying people. This question is not only faced by cultivators, but even emperors and generals in the world are often troubled by it." He paused, then began a story. Long ago, there was a wise emperor who governed his country well and was deeply loved by his people. However, there was a minister who constantly opposed him. No matter what policy the emperor proposed, the minister would always contradict him, sometimes even in front of all the officials, making the emperor lose face. What was worse, he secretly spread rumors unfavorable to the emperor and rallied other ministers to oppose him. At first, the emperor tolerated it, but as time went on, just seeing this minister would make him irritable, unable to sleep, and lose his appetite. Later, one of the emperor's enlightened masters taught him a secret method. Just 3 sentences. The emperor followed it, and not only did his inner peace return, even more miraculously, 3 months later, the minister who had always opposed him actually apologized and admitted his wrongs. He later became the emperor's most loyal advisor, even helping him quell a rebellion that almost overthrew the dynasty. The disciples listened, dumbfounded. 3 sentences can turn mortal enemies into close friends. The old master looked at their surprised faces and slowly spoke those 3 sentences. The first sentence: "He has his own suffering." Huiming was stunned. "Is that all?" The old master explained. "Why do you think Zhiguang constantly opposes you? A truly peaceful person would never intentionally harm others. The reason he belittles you and mocks you is because deep down, he carries immense pain and fear." He looked at Zhiguang. "Are you willing to tell everyone why you targeted Huiming?" Zhiguang's face instantly flushed red, stammering, unable to speak. The old master compassionately said, "Let me explain. Before Zhiguang became a monk, although his family was wealthy, and he was very learned, precisely because of this, he was burdened with high expectations and immense pressure from a young age. He feared failure, feared being inferior to others, and even more, feared being looked down upon. After becoming a monk, seeing Huiming, a young man from a poor background, receive praise from the elder, his inner fears were triggered. He was afraid of being outshone, which is why he tried to prove his worth by belittling others." Upon hearing this, Zhiguang's eyes welled up with tears. The old master's words were like a sharp sword, piercing directly into the deepest wound he was most unwilling to face. A person who is truly at peace within will not harm anyone. The old master's voice grew even gentler. Behind every repulsive action a person takes, there is deep suffering. When you understand this, and you look at the person you dislike, your state of mind will fundamentally change. From anger to understanding, from opposition to compassion. Huiming suddenly understood. The anger in his eyes when he looked at Zhiguang was gone, replaced by deep sympathy. The second sentence is, "I am the same." This sentence asks you to reflect on yourself. The old master continued, "Huiming, you despise Zhiguang's arrogance, but when you yourself received praise from the elder, did a sense of pride ever arise in your heart? You despise his jealousy, but when you saw other senior brothers, when someone was more popular than you, did your heart ever feel a ripple of displeasure?" Huiming blushed. Indeed, he had also felt secretly pleased when he received praise, and he had also felt unhappy due to jealousy. When you can clearly see your own true nature, you will understand other situations. The old master said, "We are all cultivators struggling with afflictions. All have greed, anger, and ignorance, and are all fumbling forward on the path to liberation. Once you understand this, your compassion for others will naturally arise." The third sentence is, "May he find peace." Upon hearing this sentence, everyone showed surprised expressions. Facing someone you dislike, you still have to wish them peace? The old master explained, "This sentence is the sublimation of the entire practice. When you can sincerely wish that person you once disliked to find peace, your heart will be completely liberated." Why do this? Because true wisdom tells us that person you dislike, their true nature, is also pure and bright. only obscured by afflictions and habitual tendencies. When they truly find peace within, those behaviors you find so annoying will naturally disappear. His voice grew more solemn. More importantly, when you can sincerely wish all beings peace and happiness, you are walking the bodhisattva path. Once compassion arises, it not only resolves resentment, but also accumulates immeasurable merit. Hearing this, Hui Ming suddenly understood something. He walked up to Zhiguang, pressed his palms together. Senior brother Zhiguang, if I have offended you in the past, please forgive me. I sincerely wish you all the best on your cultivation path. May your heart be at peace. Zhiguang looked at Hui Ming's sincere eyes and could no longer hold back. Tears streamed down his face like a spring. He also pressed his palms together in return. Junior brother Hui Ming, it was my fault. Because of my inner fear and jealousy, I made things difficult for you at every turn. After listening to the teaching today, I realized how ignorant I was. I also sincerely wish you great progress in your cultivation and an increase in both merit and wisdom. The old master watched this scene and smiled compassionately. This is the wonderful use of these 3 sentences. They can not only bring you inner peace, but also inspire others, turning enemies into friends. Why do these 3 sentences possess such magical power? Later, a disciple curiously asked the old master why these simple 3 sentences could have such magical power. The old master replied, because these 3 sentences embody the core wisdom of Buddhism. The first sentence, he has his own suffering, embodies the wisdom of dependent origination. All phenomena arise from causes and conditions, including the actions of people you dislike. There are deep reasons behind them. What you see is not a person's badness, but their suffering. Understanding this, you can replace emotion with wisdom. The second sentence, I am the same, embodies the wisdom of equality. In essence, all sentient beings are equal. The troubles you face, others face too. The mistakes you've made, others might make as well. Realizing this, you won't feel superior anymore, and you won't feel antagonistic. The third sentence, may he find peace, embodies the practice of compassion, which is the highest wisdom. When you can sincerely wish all beings peace and happiness, you have already transcended the dualistic thinking of right and wrong, and entered true freedom. These 3 sentences correspond to 3 levels of practice: understanding cause and effect, recognizing equality, and cultivating compassion. When you can apply these 3 sentences, when facing anyone, you are already walking the highest path of cultivation. The inspiration this story gives you is that, in our lives, each of us will encounter people we dislike. It could be a nitpicking colleague, a relative who loves to compare, a friend who gossips behind your back, or even a neighbor who constantly opposes you. Before, you probably only had 3 choices: confront them, endure it, or avoid them. Confronting them hurts both sides. Enduring it will cause you inner suffering, and avoiding them isn't always possible. But now, you have a 4th option. Use these 3 sentences to transform your mindset. Next time you encounter that person you dislike, try silently repeating in your mind, he has his own suffering. What kind of fear or pain is hidden behind their words and actions? I am the same. Don't I have similar flaws? Have I never been annoying to others? May he find peace. If I truly wish for their happiness, how much resentment will remain in my heart? You will find that when you truly do this, a miracle happens. It's not that the other person changed overnight, but that your heart has changed. You are no longer swayed by their words and actions, no longer losing sleep because of them. You have gained true inner freedom. And what's even more wonderful is that, when your heart changes, your way of treating them will also change. Your gaze, tone, and attitude will unconsciously soften. The other person will feel this change, and their defenses and aggression will slowly crumble. This is the power of transformation, not convincing with logic, but melting with compassion. Here's a modern example. I know a friend who was constantly targeted by a colleague at work. That colleague would always find fault with him in meetings and badmouth him to their boss. My friend was so angry he wanted to quit, and even thought about revenge. Later, he learned these 3 sentences. He started trying to look at that colleague from a different perspective. He learned that the colleague came from a difficult background, with chronically ill parents, was under immense pressure at work, and terrified of being laid off. He understood then that the other person's aggression was actually born out of fear. He then reflected on himself and realized that sometimes he too would lose his temper with family due to stress, and could also inadvertently hurt others. He realized he was no more noble than them. Finally, he began to sincerely wish that colleague could overcome their difficulties and find inner peace. He didn't deliberately try to please them. He simply changed his own mindset. Amazingly, a few months later, that colleague's attitude towards him slowly changed. They no longer clashed, and even started collaborating. Later, they became great partners. This isn't some magic, but the law of human nature. What you hold in your heart is what you attract. If your heart holds resentment, you will see more hostility. You have compassion in your heart, it will inspire more kindness. The last words. You don't have to confront someone to dislike them. Turning hostile is the lowest level way of handling things. It cannot solve the problem. It will only create more problems. The highest form of wisdom. It is about replacing confrontation with understanding. Replace resentment with compassion. This doesn't require you to humble yourself or try to please others. You just need to return to your inner self and use these 3 sentences to untangle the knot that makes you uncomfortable. These 3 sentences have traveled through more than 2 millennia and still guide countless lost souls today. They tell us that when facing unpleasant people, the wisest way to handle it is not to confront, not to escape, and certainly not to lose your temper, but to use wisdom, equality, and compassion to resolve all resentment, allowing your mind to achieve true freedom. When you master these 3 sentences, you will have mastered life's highest level of social wisdom. No matter how annoying someone is, no matter how tricky the interpersonal relationship, you can maintain inner peace and ease, and even influence the other person, turning enemies into friends. This is not a fairy tale. It is a truth verified by countless people over thousands of years. Why not give it a try?